Skadooba-doo-bop, FriendShop.
Hey, welcome back out to the Friend Shop. I'm Garrick from No One's Designs, and today I'm going to be showing you a few of the really cool new kind of cosplay focused chips that are starting to find their way out onto the market. Specifically, sound effects chips. Now, putting sounds into your prop and costume is usually a big ordeal. The way that I've seen most people do it is by using Arduino boards, which involves learning coding, and it's just a multi-step process. On the other hand, you get a lot of customizability out of that. But what Adafruit has put out with these chips is simple, no programming sound. All you need to know is a tiny little bit of soldering and how a circuit works, and you can have sound effects in either your prop and costumes. Now, Adafruit designs the chips in two different sizes. They have the Mini FX chip, which has just wires for a speaker out and a micro USB port. And then they have their standard sized one, which has a headphone jack out and their USB port, along with all of the trigger pins up and down the side of each of them. The larger one has room for 11 triggered sound effects. The smaller one has 7 triggers. Now, they come in fairly small memory sizes. I believe you can get them in 2 megabytes and 16 megabytes. Doesn't sound like a whole lot, but when you are just triggering simple sound effects, or maybe a small song or two, it's plenty. Best part of all, their prices range between $20 to $30 for one of these. The way that you program them is probably the most ingenious way that someone's designed a sound effects board. The micro USB port, you just use that to plug directly into your computer, and then your computer thinks that this is a USB thumb drive. So you can just open it up just like you would any other USB flash drive. The way that you get the sound effects on there is you take your file. It either has to be a WAV format or OGG, which is a, think of it as an open source MP3. I use uncompressed waves. The files are a little bit bigger, but the sound quality is better. And you name the file a specific way to attach it to the trigger pin. So for trigger 0, which they start counting with 0 and go up, you would name that wave file T00. Once you put it onto the board recognizes it, and now whenever you complete the circuit for that trigger pin, the sound effect happens. They have a few modifications that you can add to that. They have a latch effect. So if you label it T00 latch, that means the sound effect will continue to go until you press that button again. If you label it T00 loop or T00 repeat, I'm gonna have to look at them. But anyways, there is a good amount of flexibility inside of how these different sounds work. The only drawback is that they don't have their own onboard amplifier. Luckily, you can get little, like I believe this is like a little 9 watt or 10 watt amp off of eBay or Amazon for under $5. This guy can accept up to 12 volts DC, but it'll run fine off of a 9 volt battery. And you can see it even has a headphone out. The chips themselves are powered by that USB cord, which means you can run them with a rechargeable USB battery brick. If you want to provide your own power to it, it's just 5 volts. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to quickly assemble this with my 8 ohm 10 watt speaker here that I think I salvaged out of something from a thrift shop. Throw this all together and kind of show you up close how it works and how loud this sound can be.
So this is an example of a simple layout for this sound effects chip. First, you're going to have your 5-volt power supply, which in this case is a cell phone battery brick. You just need to be careful when you're buying these. Some of them will power down if they don't have enough current being drawn from them. Most of the time, the cheap, like stick style ones are plenty enough, and you can get those for like $5 to $10. So if you notice, this comes over to the breadboard here into the positive and negative terminals that run across the side. Then we take jumpers into the VIN and ground on the board itself. Now, VIN is your positive, and G and D, that's your ground, that's going to be your negative. So that's how we get the 5 volts to the chip. Next, we need to get the sound out to the amplifier. We look over here, you'll see ground, RL grounds, so that's your right and your left. This does do stereo out. I'm only running a mono sound to save on space, so I just have the ground and the right coming out. Those are being split out over here and soldered into a headphone jack, which runs into the amp. The amp itself is being powered by a 9-volt battery and then being wired into this oversized speaker. It's a 10 watt, 8 ohms, but it's what I had laying around. Now, in order to trigger a sound, we have to complete a circuit. If you will notice across this side, you will see the numbers 0 through 7. That is your trigger numbers. So this board actually has 8 triggers. In order to activate one of those, we have to run a switch between them. So I have this push button here that's wired in between trigger 2 and the ground. And that's how you'll complete the circuit and activate it. And now we're just going to hear some lovely proton pack firing sounds.
So it's really not all that difficult to wire yourself up a nice little sound effects package. Even with the more complicated chip that doesn't have the speaker jack out. I really hope that this encourages you all to start putting sound effects and other things, maybe theme music, something like that, into your props. There's nothing that quite makes a costume or a prop be alive or feel alive than sound effects. I just want to thank you all for taking the time to watch one of my videos. Please subscribe. If you want to see more of mine and my wife's work, you can always find us on Facebook at facebook.com/noonesdesigns, on Twitter at noonesdesigns, or on noonesdesigns.com. And last but definitely not least, you can see me on the first season of Syfy Channel's Cosplay Melee. Now, my episode airs on April 4th, but please start watching on the 21st of March. It's going to be a fantastic run. They've got amazing people on it, and the show is going to be a blast. So, hope you all had a good time. Let me know if you have any questions about this. There should be links below for like where I bought all this stuff. Anyways, have a good one, and we'll see you later.